This is the RM-834, the US Special Forces' new prototype machine gun that's in the competition to replace their old Mark 48 that's been in service for over 2 decades now. The RM-834 fires the full-powered 7.62 by 51mm cartridge at 600 rounds per minute on full send mode, but its capabilities and its insides are nothing like the old Mark 48. So today, we're going to examine what makes this machine gun program a revolution, and we're going to take a look at what makes a Special Forces machine gunner different from your normie conventional one. To better understand why Special Forces are switching weapons, the defense company True Velocity invited me out to touch some grass in gorgeous old Texas to be the first person outside active duty to test fire their new prototype. We know that the United States Special Operations Command has publicly had this requirement on the books for this kind of lightweight machine gun assault, or LMG-A as it's called, for years now.
And the intent is that this fits a role as an assault machine gun. We don't really in our conventional forces have an assault machine gun. The idea being, okay, it's not a crew serve weapon that you have a 3-person team and you're firing, but it's an individual weapon, belt fed, higher rate of fire, but allows you to put a volume of fire on the objective or during an assault.
SOCOM tried finding a replacement for the Mark 48 in 2016, then again in 2019, but they kept pushing it back and pushing it back, kicking the can down the road again and again until 2024. But why does SOCOM need to replace the seemingly beloved Mark 48 in the first place? What was so wrong with it? Before we get into that, this message is sponsored by Raycon. Recently, I've been flying all over the country to test fire the Army's new weapons, and the whole time I was traveling, I used Raycon's bone-conducting headphones. They're awesome for when you're on the go and still need to stay alert and not miss your connecting flight to Texas. And for Black Friday and Cyber Monday, you can save up to 30% on all Raycon audio products. Raycon's bone-conducting headphones use what's called off-ear audio, which sends sound through vibrations in your bones. What that means is that your ears stay open to what's going on around you. I was really excited to work with Raycon because they're actually what I use when I go to the gym, and I legitimately love them. Over 3 million customers also already love Raycon, and they come with a 30-day happiness guarantee. These give you crystal clear music, podcasts, or calls, 13 hours of battery life, and they're IP68 waterproof. I've run mine through the washing machine a bunch of times and they still work. That's not an official claim. Don't do that. I'm just saying. Raycon gives you premium performance without the premium price tag, and Black Friday is right around the corner. Raycon audio products are up to 30% off site-wide, from everyday essentials to the latest releases. These early deals won't last long though, so shop now before they're gone by clicking the link in the description or going to buyraycon.com/CappyArmyBC. The Mark 48 was originally designed by SOCOM in the early 2000s to replace the role of the Vietnam War-era M60 Pig. Elite units like the SEALs and Rangers and SF needed something with full 7.62 NATO firepower while still being mobile enough to be able to sprint with it onto an objective. The problem was, the M249 SAW belt fed was like 17 pounds and only fired the less powerful 5.56, and your N240 Bravo weighed like 28 pounds, but there really wasn't anything in between. So they basically took that M249 SAW and they made a chonky beefed up version that could fire the 7.62, and then voila, we had the Mark 48. Now, Mark 48 was beloved at first, but it developed a reputation over the years. It had some serious downsides. First of all, it became increasingly unreliable after a few weeks or months of abusing it in combat. Many of the weapon's parts broke down faster because the round exploding in there was way more powerful than the 5.56 round that the SAW was designed for. And the LMG-A program aims to resolve this problem with updated, better materials for higher durability.
So this is the RM-834. It's an advanced prototype weapon that we have. It's still in development. The work we had to put into this was developing the recoil mitigation system and the mechanics of the weapon, and also to start working down the reliability curve. In the first month that we developed this weapon, we fired over 8,000 rounds through this weapon.
This unclassified statement document that I found online explains exactly what SOCOM wants out of the machine gun. The new weapon needs to be capable of hitting out to 1,500 meters, which is about an extra 500 meters of capability, and it needs to fire a 6-minute of angle as a minimum accuracy, and 3-minute of angle as desired accuracy at 100 yards, which is kind of crazy. That's not far off from rifles. Stop and think about how much of a revolution that really is if that's the case. because the old M249 has a minute of angle of, I believe, 12 at its worst, so you're talking about a requirement to be 2 or possibly 3 times as accurate.
So right now with our 7.62 cartridge out of a belt-fed weapon, point target's about 800 meters. This can do that, right? With the barrel length we have, with the weight of the barrel, with the accuracy of the weapon, we can match that. And then if you tripod mount and you go to area targets, you can go out with 7.62 even to 1,800 meters.
The Mark 48 receiver only has about half the life of the M240 Bravo. So operators had bolt feed trays, barrels, and rods wearing down and dying faster. For your M240 and your Mark 48, the standard rule of thumb is to replace the barrel every 10 minutes of sustained fire, so about every 1,000 rounds. The new machine gun, the LMG-A program, will have similar reliability, including suppressor performance.
It's a very lightweight weapon system. Configuration of this weapon and the weights of this weapon are largely driven by the barrel. This barrel that's on here right now is sized to accommodate the same duty cycle as an M240 barrel. So it's a much heavier barrel. It increases the weight of the weapon system to about 15 pounds, but it has an ability to fire several hundred rounds cyclic before you get into barrel. Almost crew serve weapons capability. So we can size the barrel to whatever the application is. But anyway, this weapon system somewhere between 12.5 and 15.5 pounds, largely driven by what capability you want out of the barrel, what firing rate you want out of the barrel.
And digging through SOCOM's demonstration document that's unclassified online, it basically says that SOCOM is heavily emphasizing reliability under heat and sustained fire. The test is built around trying to break the guns. And if it does fail to fire, the Army times how long it takes soldiers to fix the problem in remedial action. And it's not just reliability issues that have plagued the role of the lightweight machine gun assaulter since the M60. It's also weight concerns. And that's the first thing that I felt when I picked up the new RM-834. I was shocked by how light it was at like 12.5 pounds. New materials being used today are far more light. It's about 6 pounds less than the Mark 48, while still having the same type of ammunition, and it's about 4 pounds lighter than the SAW, while having twice the firepower advantage. Whether you're an average infantryman or an elite baller with a beard, lighter is always better. That's what grunts complain about the most, right? We want it to be lightweight. Take that, pumpkins! Pumpkin latte season is over, you basic b****s. I fired it from the standing position while looking down the sights. I was legitimately blown away that I could actually wield the thing, which would make it more useful in like a CQB environment.
You stay on target is a big thing, is that it helps with the accuracy.
It's interesting how True Velocity developed the weapon. As far as I know, they were the first company to field a recoil mitigation machine gun for their RM-338, the larger machine gun. And from there, they sort of redesigned the concept for this.
We still use the same patented technology for recoil mitigation, but the parts look different than in the 338. The physics and the mechanics behind it are the same. The equations are the same, but the actual physical configuration of the parts are different. This one has a rotating bolt, similar to what you would see on a 249 or an M4.
In the conventional force, machine gun tactics are for more defensive or support by fire, for your M240 for instance. The M240 is usually too heavy to take on assaulting of a raid of an objective. It's not really an option. However, with the Mark 48 and the light machine gun assault role, you're meant to advance on the objective. When we look at some adversarial forces, like what China and Russia use, or what many insurgent forces carry into battle with them even, they often have a PKM, which is also built for that same kind of doctrine of the kind of assault forward role. Its rounds also have standoff and outrange the old US standard issue M249 SAW. So Special Forces machine gun tactics and doctrine for direct action raids are often designed to go on the offensive and be mobile, be able to disperse more. Assault machine gunner is the guy that moves up on the objective. He's able to stack on the door with you and the other door kickers. Moving between standing, kneeling, and prone was no problem because of the ergonomics of the weapon, and that's coming from someone who's not a young buck 19-year-old E4 anymore. I'm a sleep-deprived 36-year-old father. For reference, at 5'9" and 175 pounds, that means lifting a 7.62 machine gun for extended periods of time is usually a chore for me. And that's why my old squad leader used to call me Spaghetti Arms Cappy. But carrying the LMG-A around in a mock patrol like this The RM-834 didn't fatigue my arms as quickly as the SAW did that I carried around in Iraq. This is also the case for all of the machine guns in the competition to replace the Mark 48. It's not just true velocities. So the FN series and the SIG machine guns are also much lighter. As a soldier, I of course have concerns about the new weapon. Is it actually more reliable? Does the recoil mitigation system that we're about to get into have downsides that we're not aware of? Does it overheat, or cook off, or pop suppressors faster, or constantly jam and never work? According to True Velocity, they've developed this technology for over 15 years now, and they've been running tests to validate that tech, make sure it's mature and reliable. Since we don't have access to all of their test information yet, or the results from the Army testing, this is what we have to go off of. But I don't think the reduced weight or added reliability is even the craziest thing about SOCOM's new LMG-A. The recoil mitigation system in the RM-834 is what's nuts.
One of the benefits of the impulse averaging system that we have, it provides stable and accurate automatic fire. And what that means is without the large recoil forces coming back into the operator's shoulder, you can maintain a accurate sight picture, and it allows you to put more rounds onto the target.
According to True Velocity, the RM-834 fully meets the dispersion accuracy requirements from SOCOM.
When we're firing 7.62, it has a felt recoil of a 5.56 automatic weapon when you're shooting. The real benefit to the recoil mitigation is in continuous automatic fire. 3 to 5 round bursts. That's where in a conventional weapon system and by its design, you start to having larger and larger cones of fire when they go down range.
It's more about at that point, you're getting rocked around.
I mean, a traditional AR-10, somewhere between 9 and 12 pounds, depending on how it's set up. Imagine firing an AR-10 in automatic, and if it's controllable. It's not, right? And I'm not knocking the AR-10, it's just, it's not meant for that. Imagine having a 12.5 pound weapon that is extremely controllable in automatic fire. And that's what the technology gives you.
Another major complaint about the Mark 48 was that it had this violent recoil impulse, and it fires too many rounds per minute, which can be really uncontrollable. This meant that the Mark 48 was slightly less accurate than the old M240 Bravo. I test fired the Mark 48 when I was there to compare it in a side-by-side, and the first thing that I noticed that jumped out to me is that the Mark 48 is much louder, first of all, because it doesn't have a Delta P suppressor on it. It's heavier, and it shakes more when you shoot her. Most belt feds, like the Mark 48, are fixed barrel from the open bolt that they fire from, so that means that everything's slamming right against your shoulder like a sledgehammer with that force. It's interesting to try to understand how the RM-834's recoil mitigation system works. When you fire, the barrel, bolt, trunnion assembly all slides rearward inside the receiver and only travels about 0.1 inch or like 2.5 millimeters back rearward. It's a tiny movement, almost impossible to see with the naked eye, but that tiny movement is what balances the recoil forces. So I squeezed the trigger and something crazy happened.
That's crazy. The feeling of it is that it's like somebody kind of pushing you on your shoulder compared to that, which feels like more of someone's tapping you on your shoulder. Everyone should have that experience in their life at least once. And with the suppressor too, you could almost not know you're shooting.
Maybe I wouldn't have constant ringing in my ears if I had been issued this instead. But fortunately, the ringing drowns out all the voices in my head. Less recoil means smaller cone of fire, smaller beaten zone as machine gunners call it, which means better, more effective suppressing the enemy and keeping their heads down, which means less ammunition burned through. To get a better feel for it, we set up a bunch of festive pumpkins to murk. When I killed the pumpkins, it made me feel powerful. Felt myself grow 2 inches taller. I realized that it's kind of visually anticlimactic to shoot up pumpkins without filling them with like explosives or water or something, so I'm trying to learn how to gun tube better still after 6 years. The program to replace the Mark 48 really kicked back into high gear very recently, starting in 2024, when the government held what's called an industry day in Florida, and that's where they got input from a number of different firearms companies to refine their final requirements and performance specifications.
We do have a quick change barrel. A lot of people will debate whether an assault machine gun needs a quick change barrel. So we're not there to establish doctrine for units, and is somebody that carries this weapon really going to have a spare barrel? I don't know, maybe not. But if they do get into a situation or a mission set where they want to have multiple barrels, maybe an assault barrel, maybe a heavy barrel.
One of the interesting changes in the requirements is the Army wants it to have a selector from safe to auto, then to semi-fire, because variety is the spice of life. And also because semi-fire, wait a second, what is semi-fire doing on a belt-fed machine gun? What kind of blasphemy is this in the machine gun world? I've never heard of a machine gun in history with that option personally. Maybe some gun experts know of one out there. But there's a method to this requested madness, supposedly. This will change how you zero shots, with a machine gun having single fire if you want to fire a bunch of quick, rapid fire shots that are far more accurate than full auto mode, then you can do that now. If you need to conserve ammo in some situations, that also gives soldiers that option. One of the cool requirements from SF for the new machine gun is that it needs to have its feed tray cover to only go up where the rounds are punched in, instead of the whole top of the feed tray like the old machine guns. This helps with not throwing off your optics zero from vibrations, and it makes reloading a lot easier.
It does eject brass out of the bottom. Sometimes when brass ejects to the side of a weapon, it can hit other people, things like that.
Anyone who's been at a range and has probably some scars from hot brass will appreciate that. Also, that means a lower visual signature if your rounds are going straight down, so the drones are less likely to pop you. Now, True Velocity's polymer ammo has even lower heat signature of spent casings, which helps avoiding being spotted again by those drones with thermal cameras. And as you guys know, that's my favorite thing, drones not killing me. As a quick note, this is everything you don't want to do with a machine gun position. You don't want to crest the hill and fire while you're silhouetted against the sky like this, like I'm doing right here. It makes you a giant, huge target to the enemy. I did this here because, to be totally honest, it kind of looks cool and I wanted to see how it felt to shoot down like that from a berm, from a fixed position like that. From here, the government requested the first of 5 phases. So essentially the white paper that has been put out for the weapons, then the prototype proposal and selection, then a safety test, then development and operational testing, and final procurement. Only one company is going to win this bid. We know from this unclassified PowerPoint slide that they expect the earliest fielding date to be in 2026, just a year away. So FN appears to have a version in consideration. Looks like SIG might also, and several other companies. You might ask, why doesn't Special Forces go with the existing machine gun that they might be looking at for the conventional forces with the M250? SOCOM slowed down their plans for the LMG-A program in 2019 exactly because of that, because of the Army's NGSW program that looked like it might produce a universal solution. But since then, Special Operations Command has decided to go full due diligence mode on the Mark 48 replacement. They often field weapon systems that have different requirements from the conventional force, and they're designed to withstand sometimes harsher conditions and harsher combat than your average soldier's weapons. They're built to tolerances that average weapons aren't. But whether it's True Velocity or whoever that wins, they will likely go on to define the next 20 years of Special Operations machine gun weapons and tactics. Or maybe the whole bid just falls apart.
I just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you.
If you like this video, here are a few more on firearms, like why every sniper is switching to the same bolt action rifle concept. I'm your average infantryman, Chris Cappy. Thank you for watching. See you guys next week and ending transmission.